Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I'll fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good. Fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts. I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong. I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth. Can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have it douse, not what I'm about. Have your f***ing cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round. I'm legend bound, can't stop me now.
You don't wanna fuck with me. A slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
What's going on, everybody? How are y'all doing tonight? I'm so excited. I get to hang out with my friends tonight. Yay! So cool. So cool. Anyways, first, let's do a quick little PSA. Everybody, if you are in America, which I see, Jojo, you don't technically count for this. Especially here in the South, we got some storms rolling up. So make sure y'all are protected and safe, be weather aware, yada yada, you know, all the stuff I'm supposed to say. So all right, little bit of a change of plans for tonight. We were supposed to do some talking about some Bigfoots, but life happens. So we're gonna change gears a little bit and we're gonna talk about Dogman. Yay! Everybody loves talking about Dogman. He's so much cooler and scarier than the Bigfoots, and everybody likes him. Everybody likes him. So, with that being said, I've got a friend of mine helping me out tonight. Let's see here. So, we're going to introduce him with a bit of a video montage. Sorta. You'll see what I mean. So, here we go. Bam. Tom's not here, but happy birthday, Tom.
Right. Happy birthday, Tom. Hopefully he will see this at some point today or tomorrow.
Yeah. So anyways, yay, Magickal Journey. What's up, buddy?
Dude, hey, how are you tonight?
Doing better than I deserve, man. How about yourself?
Same, definitely. It's kind of a crazy night here for all kinds of reasons, but definitely hanging in there. Wild ride this past couple of weeks. Definitely.
I feel you, man. It's been nothing but busy for me.
Right. Yeah, I had that bug that's been going around for like the week before last, and this week it's been all about trying to get my bearings back together after all that because I don't get sick. I literally, like, it's been years since I've called out for more than one day at a time. And I
Yeah.
called out 4 days this past week because of that. So it was pretty ugly.
Yeah, I feel you, man. My wife got sick with something, and then the little one got sick. And since the little one has my blood type, it's
Mm.
jumped to me. Like I just got home and was having to watch her because she was staying home from school.
Oh, yeah.
Got me sick, so I had to miss out
Mm.
on lots of money going out.
Yeah.
But good news is I didn't have to take this week off from the podcast. So yay! There's
There
that.
you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So, all right. So, man, we're going to talk about some Dogman today. Everybody's favorite furry thing,
Furry
right?
thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know how popular Dogman is in the cryptid world, really, but I think the potential of Bigfoot being more friendly is probably a thing. But yeah. So, and curiously enough, the storms that we're tracking right now tonight are like right around the land between the lakes right now. So that was one of the reasons why I was like, wow, I wonder how the dogmen fare during storms. And that
Do they
started to
smell like wet dog?
ew.
Yeah.
Well, they already smell pretty bad as it is, from my understanding. So,
Right.
do they smell like decaying wet dog?
Do they? Do they? Holy crap. 86. What's up, buddy? My other Aussie friend is here. Good to see ya, man. Good to see ya.
Yeah. What time is it over in Oz right now?
Yeah, 86 Joe. Joe, what time is it over there? I'm very curious. It's almost like we're over here talking like British people, like, how's the weather? You know, it's just
And usually I would just go to my world clock and find out, but I've got things focused on the local stations here, so I don't want to veer too far off from that, because it's been the connection is weird tonight too. So the fact that I actually have a Nashville station picking up right now is kind of interesting.
Good. It's 1:39 p.m. there, so
Wow.
cool. They're living in the future.
They are living in the future. The future is now.
Yeah, crazy. So anyways, let's get into like some meat and taters here. We don't want to bore everybody about the weather.
Right. So here's the thing that was brought to my attention recently that I really didn't, because my research is all over the place all the time. And frankly, Dogman is a fairly new area for me to research and talk about. Because it's kind of a newer topic in a lot of ways, as far as making a lot of paranormal headlines. So one of the things, I mean, I've been very aware of Dogman in the LBL and places like that, obviously to the west of me. But one of the things that I was tuned into recently by somebody who lives in that area is the amount of activity with Dogman in Daniel Boone there in Kentucky. That is something I wasn't as aware of as I probably should be. So that's my new focus now, is to try to hone in on that area a little bit more. LBL, honestly, I hear, there's new stuff all the time, of course. Occasionally Martin Grove and Daryl Denton have new experiences they talk about. Some of the other guys that go over that way have experiences that they talk about occasionally. But honestly, like, how many times can you read about the LBL massacre? And that is, or talk about it, anytime the LBL comes up, that's the first story we hear about. And of course, and depending on which school of thought with that you go to, will depend on what your thoughts are about that. Because there's two different stories now, thanks to somebody who popped up a while back who apparently was spinning tales about being a survivor of this attack. Allegedly there was a lot of stuff that was said that was questionable as time went on. So, I'm not going to say that this person is, fabricating things, although I trust the people who did tell me that they were fabricating the story quite a bit. So, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing, man. Like, I've told my Dogman story so many times, and it comes across as essentially like a werewolf story, right? And I've had people be like, really? We like the dire wolf thing that evolved. We don't like werewolves. Unless you want to talk about skinwalkers, then I like skinwalkers. And it's like, look, man, I don't know what to tell you. This is the circumstances. This is what happened. This is what I saw. I don't know. It's one of those things. And to be fair, there's so many different like possibilities and routes of these things, like the way they can be. So it's like one of those things, like if you haven't seen it yourself, it's hard to wrap your head around. I mean, it's easier to wrap your head around something like Bigfoot, the big monkey critter in the woods, but werewolves, it's like, it's a little hard, even though we've been talking about them for thousands of years. So
right. Well, and my thought on this is that any lore, any legends that exist have an inkling of truth to them, at least. And dog type humanoids go all the way back to ancient Egypt, even like Anubis and whatever. We see these things. Historically, the representation potentially has always been there. So, where do they come up with this idea at? Who just woke up one day and decided to put the head of a dog on the body of a human being? Granted, it's possible. Human beings can be very creative, but again, when you're talking about people, especially during that time period, they were very prone to kind of interpreting things in the frame of reference of what they knew at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's very interesting to me. It goes back to the fact that we have descriptions of a lot of things in ancient texts and so forth that does not quite ring true with what our perception of them in the past has been. We see history as being evolving. We don't see it like progressing and advancing above where we are now and then digressing.
Right.
So there's a lot of questions in our perception of what is and what the reality of the situation is. Again, it's history, so we have to keep ourselves in check and remember we weren't there, so we don't know what actually happened. We can only assume. So, were there potentially things that triggered the images of half human, half animal creatures back in the day?
Right. Well, you bring up something that's interesting, actually. You're touching on a nerve, right? I guess you could say, like, the whole historical thing. You know, what's interesting is that what's recorded in history is that they used dog-headed men, which would be the cynocephali, as mercenaries in war by the Greeks and the Romans in recorded history for a long time, you know. And I'm not one to think that, you know, our ancestors are stupid and misinterpreted rough looking hooligans with long dreadlocks and maybe a smudge of dirt on their nose, you know. I don't think that's the case. I mean, some people, I mean, I guess historians would be like, ah, yeah, it's just, I don't know, they were Phoenicians or something. Like, you know, I don't buy that. But then again, they also reported like the dudes with like faces in their chest and no head, right? So it's kind of a duality there. Like, I don't see how cynocephali are a thing, but yet those no-headed dudes are a thing too, you know? What do you think? What do you think?
You know, here's my thought. First of all, I don't question anything anymore as far as like saying that something is impossible. I really don't think that. Honestly, I've never really thought that something that the word impossible was really a very viable word to use about something, because in reality, we found a lot of things that we used to think were impossible to be very possible now. We found living organisms living in places that science used to say no life could live in.
Right.
You know, we've sent unmanned craft to places that we at one time would have said you will never see these places. You know, so at what point do we start understanding that just because we can't perceive it with our minds does not make it unreal?
Right.
Okay. The idea, you know, of I think that's one of the reasons why it's very, I mean, you have to understand, like, the psychology of human beings says that Dogmen can't be real because it's too much for me to wrap my head around. I don't want to think about if I take my child to a state park or a national park, you know, that I'm going to have to worry about them getting eaten by an apex predator. They don't want to think about it. Just like we don't want to think about, you know, the dangers of going to, you know, to the store late at night.
Right.
You know, everybody still bemoans the fact that there's not that many places that are open 24 hours anymore. You know, and at the same time, you know, people really don't understand that maybe it's not a bad thing, you know, because we're at the point now where, you know, people will just lollygag around and go out whenever. And I see it every time I get in a car and I drive down the road. People do not believe that they're going to have an accident, and they drive like mad children. I don't know. It's crazy. So the idea of danger, anything that creates a red flag for people, we immediately want to go into denial and say this can't be.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same way with when people say something about, you know, well, look, I mean, look how long it took for us to start understanding the dangers of smoking. You know, for years and years and years, people, you know, doctors were telling people don't smoke, it's bad for you. You know, and we're just now getting to the age where, you know, people are starting to understand, oh, smoking is bad for you, you shouldn't do that. You know, but it took how many thousands and possibly millions of people, you know, passing before they understood this.
Well, remember, doctors recommended smoking Camels. It was good for your lungs.
In the 1950s, they would actually subscribe or prescribe smoking to children at one point.
Yeah. Science has a bit of a history of propping up whoever pays them. You pay them enough, they gonna do it.
Yep.
And that remains true to this day. Oh, we can't have dogmen, but meanwhile, there's too much evidence supporting that at the very least they're being created in labs. I mean, how many human chimera news articles do we need to hear? I mean, shoot, I just put one on Facebook yesterday about Japan doing it. So
Yeah, see, that's the thing. We love to live in denial,
right.
and let's face it. I mean, quite honestly, if I was somebody who, was very left brain focused, and I relied on science a lot for my information, and I was sincerely believing that, that if it seemed illogical, I could understand. Okay, I can understand
Right.
that being a problem for people.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody walked up to me and I had that frame of thought and said, "Do you believe in 7-foot tall humanoid dogs?" I'm assuming that if I'm in the state of thinking logically and scientifically, that we need positive proof of this before we need to see one on television. We need to see one at the zoo. We need to see scientific data about this. Then I'm assuming I would say, no, that's crazy. However, again, I can't reiterate this enough, guys. Science at one time, declared that flies just mysteriously appeared from nowhere. They just because they saw larvae in rotting things, and then all of a sudden there were flies. Mysteriously, they didn't put it together that maggots were fly larvae.
Right.
So, when it comes to science, when it comes to the scientific approach, I'm not saying that science is a bad thing. Obviously, it's not. It's given us some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually helped us battle a lot of things throughout time that were very bad, diseases and so forth. But when we talk about the idea of the paranormal, and we talk about cryptids and this sort of thing, we have to understand, and I kind of look at it this way. I've never been to China before. I've seen people and I've talked to people who say they are from China.
Right.
I have picked up objects that had "Made in China" stamped on it. I've seen photographs, I've seen videos that claim to be from China. But I have no absolute personal experience with China. So, based on the evidence, I have to assume that China actually exists.
I mean, I'm sure it does exist somewhere on this flat Earth. I mean, why not? Has to.
So, and here's what I'm saying about this with the Dogman and other things. There's enough of people who react accordingly to having an experience with something that was not normal. Okay. There's enough of, I've personally seen photographs and video that most people don't see because the owners of these pictures and videos don't let them out in public for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
That testify to me. They testify to me that this creature has shown up on video, on photos, or something that looks like the creature that people are describing and saying is Dogman.
Yes.
There has been enough of stories, enough of evidence placed in my favor that I have to assume. And when you talk to somebody who used to be an avid hunter and has come across a Dogman in the woods, and these guys have grown up in the woods, they know what a bear looks like, they know what all the other little critters look like.
Right.
They're not the kind of people, some of these guys are former military, okay? They're not the kind of people that go balking at just anything. They don't drop at a shadow and go, oh my gosh. These are grown-ass men, excuse the term, who have experienced things that most of us will never experience in our lifetime.
Right.
And I've seen some of them, their reactions when they talk about this is the same reaction for anybody who's come across something
Right.
that was too true to make it up.
And yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And first of all, sorry, I'm definitely listening. I have some amazing pictures that I actually was going to show. So keep going.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of there, I'll tell you, at first I was a little concerned about, whether this was, a legitimate, like, not necessarily a legitimate creature, but if it was, as widespread and as like common as people were making it seem like it was, because there's a tendency for human beings to trend things. Okay. Our minds go a little wild sometimes if we start reading a lot of stuff, if we start listening to stories and so forth. I've been driving down the road at night and could have sworn that the German Shepherd that I passed by down the road was probably a coyote, and it was a German Shepherd. Okay, yeah. So I'm aware of the fact that our minds are kind of tricky sometimes and so forth. So there were times at the beginning of my research into Dogman that was like, okay, is the story blowing out of proportion just a little bit sometimes? And my honest evaluation is there are times it probably is blown out of proportion. I do know that there are creators, podcasters online that kind of it seems like a lot of the stories that they tell are, because they just read stuff out. They don't really interview people. They don't really throw any proof out there, anything that other than just reading stories out off of paper.
Mm-hmm.
So are they fabricating things? Maybe. Is the Dogman something that can be sensationalized? Absolutely. I mean, when you're talking about a walking killing machine, wow, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I took that back in 2022, so I was like, oh wait, I have some good stuff. But can you imagine running into this critter? Or, I mean, this one looks kind of different, but it's still rough. I mean, I can't imagine. Well, I mean, granted, I can because I've seen one, but like speaking for like the common person that has not had that experience, it would be rough. It's like you said, wrapping your head around a 7-foot bipedal wolf thing. It's one of those things that unless you've got a special touch of PTSD because you've experienced stuff before, like you just can't until it's right there in front of you and talking at you, right?
Right. And I think that's one of the things that we have to understand is we like, I can't, there's a lot of things I can't fathom because I haven't experienced. Jumping out of a plane, never experienced it.
Never going to.
I can't fathom the rush of jumping out of a plane. I've experienced other things that gave me an adrenaline rush, but I've never experienced that particular thing. Now, I have experienced talking to people who have experienced this, and I know what the common reaction of people who experience jumping out of an airplane is, especially if they've only done it once in their life for entertainment or whatever. And and this is what I'm saying about this. There's common denominators in experiences. Anybody can make up a story, but unless you have experienced time and time again interviewing people off camera, just one-on-one, talking to people who've experienced these things, and you've seen the same reactions, the same common denominators for all of these people, and these people probably have not ever met each other. And you have to assume that somewhere along the line, something is causing them to react a certain way, to have a certain response to things. Now, could it be mass hysteria? Absolutely, it could be. I'm not going to rule it out. Could it be some type of psychosis happening at the time for whatever reason? Absolutely, I'm not going to rule it out. There's several things that you have to ask yourself when you're talking about these things. But the bottom line is outside of all of the mundane reasoning, there is a very good possibility too that they could actually be experiencing a real thing. I have to say, because there's certain things, there's indicators with everything. With Dogman, there are indicators about and I'm not going to give my indicators away for practical reasons, because if I start talking about it, anybody can pick these up and go, add them to their story. What you see where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah, I definitely understand.
But there's points in people's story and people's reactions, in their descriptions of things, that it is kind of like describing a scene where somebody's been unalived. If there are points that people are going to say, if they were actually there, that the news did not tell anybody, the police did not tell anybody, you had to actually experience it to know it. It's like,
and that kind of actually brings us back full circle, where we talk about the different types, like we kind of touched on earlier. Like, all right, for instance, when I listen to somebody's story on Dogman, there are those indicators for me from, the one that I saw on the side of the road. And when somebody gives those details to me, it's like, for me, bingo. Yeah, that matches up with what I saw. But here's the thing. If there's some that's being created in labs, if there's some that are, for lack of a better word, maybe like hidden away, time forgotten cynocephaly, okay, that's going to be different. If we have just werewolves in general, like in the way that the occult talks about, I bet that's going to be different. We always like to argue about which ways the knees bend anyways, and then that doesn't even count things that are coming from a Nephilim-like origin, as well as like something that is purely in the demonic realm and then chooses to manifest as this because it can get to you or whatever. So like there's so many different routes and avenues, and it's one of those things where yeah, you can give details of what you saw and it's probably going to strike, but at the same time nobody is really going to ever really know because they weren't there with you. So we have to read the emotions and what we see in the person, if that makes sense.
This is true, but what I'm saying is there's certain, like, again, there's certain pieces of the puzzle that, you know, over time become more and more connected. Okay, so for instance, you know, the description of a certain aspect about the Dogman, you know, yeah, there are different types of Dogmen. There are definitely different aspects that each of these types have. However, there's always common denominators within stories, so you can almost pinpoint what you're looking at. You know,
Right.
For instance, fur colors. You know, I'm trying to be a little more general and not be too specific about things. The shapes of certain parts of the body, you know, shapes and colors of eyes and stuff like that. All of these indicators that like over time, as you continue to hear stories that connect together, these things that nobody's going to know unless they actually see this, you know, how did Sally know this? And, you know, and Sally lives in West Tennessee and never leaves West Tennessee.
Right.
And, you know, Peter, Paul, and Mary were out camping and they saw the same thing all the way over in South Carolina. You know, and the likelihood of these individuals knowing each other and seeing each other to getting together and go, hey, let's create this great story, you know, is pretty slim.
Right.
But yet these people who live in totally different places are experiencing things that, like, and giving little details that are identical or very close. And it makes you go, what just happened here?
Right.
That's where the puzzle starts getting very interesting. Now, as far as like, so the Chicago case that came across my desk a while back was very interesting. The one that happened on Lakeshore Drive. So this individual saw a humanoid dog type creature at 4:00 in the morning crossing over the Lakeshore Drive area south of the big strip there in Lakeshore Drive. 4:00 in the morning. She specifically said that it felt like, by the way it looked, that it was a werewolf. Those were the words that she used. Okay.
I agree.
She was in a car. She was driving. She did not. There wasn't a lot of sensory stuff going on as far as, you know, smell, tasting the air, anything like that. So some of those details are kind of left out, but it's very interesting when she says it reminded her of something that was more human than canine, that it was definitely canine-ish. It was werewolfish is what she described it as. Okay.
Hold on 1 second. I'm preparing a photo. I asked if I had another good one, and actually I do, but I have to crop it just a little bit for reasons. So give me 2 seconds. Keep going, brother. I'm listening.
Yeah. So here's my thought on this. You know, she categorized this thing out of instinct as being werewolf-like. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
one of the indications of that, and whenever I've read her story a couple of times from a couple of different sources, and both times the way that she described this creature as being more human than canine, but definitely having like hair on its body, uh, the actions that it had, some of the characteristics like ears and so forth, that
Right.
struck her as being canine like. Um, that is in characteristic with a particular type of dog man that people
There it
do
is.
report on a frequent enough level to make you raise your eyebrows and go, okay, there's something to this.
Right.
Now, whether, you know, I'm a little uncertain as far as the wanting to jump to the conclusion of you know, putting this type of dog man into the historical uh, perception of a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really want to go back and look at the time and the day and so forth and go, did this happen under full moon? You know, I mean, and you know, and really kind of go, okay, so our perception of a werewolf, you know, meets these criteria. You know, they transform during a full moon. They, you know, they're fully human, and then all of a sudden they're not, because they go through a physical transformation. Um, are these accurate, or are they Hollywood made? So we have to kind of digest that. We don't know the answers to this yet,
Right.
but I can almost guarantee you that Hollywood has yet to really be 100% accurate on anything that they put out there. So I really don't think. I think our childlike perception of what a werewolf is probably a little off if you base it on Hollywood.
Yeah, I would agree with you generally. The thing that I take issue with though on it is, I mean, that lore comes from somewhere.
Right,
And
right.
and that, you know, I don't know why this wants to open up with paint, but whatever. The I think that stuff comes from a ritualistic point of view, and you know, is describing what the occult talks about with werewolves, like when we talk about subjects in that matter, right? And that's what Hollywood wants to pick up on too, because I mean, as far as all of it goes, it's probably a lot sexier, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that, you know, and that's part of it too. When we trace our minds and the way our minds like to work and how we like to kind of romanticize things to make it fit our narratives, you know, because again, you know, logically, most of us do not want to think about the possibility of, you know, worst case scenarios with anything. Yeah, look at, there you go. What's that supposed to be? If
This
that
is
is
supposedly a dog man that is actually manifesting out of a tree.
right. And see, here's the thing, you can clearly see points when it comes to ears and so forth. You
Mm-hmm.
can see things, you know, I mean, the distinction in the two paws, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is it possible that this is some weird, really unusual, you know, thing that's growing out of the tree, you know, some kind of deformity with the tree? I mean,
That'd
you
be
know,
the dangest pareidolia I've ever seen, if that's the case, right?
I mean, seriously, there's, you know, you can try to explain this away as much as you want to, but in reality, you know, if you get you know, if you erase all of the words like impossible and
Mhm.
you know and all the excuse words out of your mind for a moment and just
Mhm.
look at the picture as a picture, the
Right.
first thing that you see is front and center. There is something that appears to be coming out of the tree,
Mhm.
you that resembles. I mean, my first glance is it kind of reminds me of one of my shepherd puppies, you know, when I was a kid at first glance.
Right.
And from there, you know, you start noticing details. You start noticing things that kind of just don't add up
Right.
as being something that would be, you know, just kind of explained away with some freakish natural growth or whatever.
Right. You know, and for me, like when I saw this photo, I had to instantly take a screenshot of it because, like, in my own experience, the dog man that I saw, you know, looked very wolfish except for the ears.
Hmm.
The ears on the one that I saw had very much a German shepherd looking ear, and its snout was long, just like this. The only difference is, like, on the one that I saw, I felt like I could count the wrinkles in its muzzle. Whereas in this, it's too pixelated. Who freaking knows? You know, I didn't get a
Right.
chance to see the arms or the hands. I do know that
Right.
mine had longer looking arms than this. But as far as like the stories go of people saying very raccoon like, I feel like that's pretty raccoon like, you know, as far as length and like way it's built and shaped, it looks very similar to those stories. So it's kind of a blend. I see things that I saw, and then I see things that are other. And then also, as Miss Joe pointed out, coming out of the tree. Trees are often used as portals, which is why we even have this whole thing of knock on wood. Guys out there in YouTube land and Rumble land and Spotify land, do y'all know where that comes from? You're summoning demons. This is a Celtic ritual, is it not, Daniel?
I mean, you know, yeah, there's that. Um,
See?
so the werewolf type dog man is definitely one category.
Yeah,
Okay. Whatever that is that was in that photo, I would probably say is not one of those.
I would
Um,
agree.
one of the other types of dog man that occurs to me to be a type or a genome, whatever you want to call it, um, is more naturally occurring.
Mm-hmm.
If you can wrap your head around that concept for a moment.
Sure.
When I say that, I mean you can trace its origin through evolution and through time and through records and history and evidence to say that this creature, this line of creatures, has existed in the natural world for a period of time, you
Hmm.
know, or throughout history. There may be different subspecies or subgroups of this same family of creatures,
Mm-hmm.
but they are all in the same lineage, the same line. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Now, then we get into things like
Well, wait a second. Are we talking like Dinopithecus or something? Direwolf? What are we talking here, man?
um, I believe that honestly, my personal thoughts on it is that direwolf, even like older than that, possibly, obviously.
Okay.
Uh, but again, just like other types of creatures, you know, over time, I believe that some of these may have, you know, some through adaptation or whatever,
Okay, yeah.
have created subspecies of the same species, if that makes sense.
Oh no, it does. I mean, because part of my my theory on it is that a lot of dogmen are actually being mistaken for what we like to, or what people like to call a gugwe, right?
Mhm.
And my personal opinion of what a gugwe actually is a baboon, not unlike Dinopithecus, but not quite that. Like, I think it goes back to when the Egyptians came to America and they all had pet baboons, right? And eventually they died out. Well, critters are pretty smart, and you're hanging out there out west in Arizona. That's basically sub-Saharan Africa. And then start branching out, plenty of food, not too much in the way of competition. You're gonna eventually get big. I mean, it's just part of it. That's just how animals work.
Mhm.
You know, a couple that give it 10,000 years, maybe. That's what I think gugways are personally. I think they're what we call now devil monkeys. You know, and the two often get mistaken. Some people are like, "Oh no, devil monkey, that's a baby dog, man." I don't know, but you know, it's obviously there's enough correlation and causation between something that appears to me to be some type of natural creature going on, you know.
Mhm.
And still, like I said, that being said, that does not discount the fact that Dogman in and of itself is a thing and has all these stories and is definitely canine-ish and has
Mhm.
all the strangeness about it. Like, all these things can coexist and be true at the same time. You know, it's just
Right.
we have to get one tranked and be like, okay, you're Nephilim, your baboon thing went awry, and you are, ooh, what are you? Hey, DARPA, what is this? You know, we got to do that. Is it ever
Mhm.
going to happen? I doubt it. But that's just me.
And recently I've also seen um, photographic evidence of a type of dog-ish creature that appears to be humanoid, that's extremely small, and by extremely small I mean we're talking little people small.
Oh,
Yeah, like
hmm.
uh, with that, I mean, having just seen pictures and not have and the picture that I saw really had nothing to compare size on. I couldn't tell you the exact size of these things, but
Is this something I can do a Google search on?
I doubt it
Oh,
because this came from somebody who's researching in a specific area,
okay, no
and
worries.
I don't know that he's let his stuff go public. Some of this,
Hmm.
but I do know that like these little beasties were by size would not be very threatening
Right.
at all. As a matter of fact, they would probably be about as threatening as a poodle. But what is the potential for them, and what is their purpose, and why are they here?
What
With
powers
that
do they have?
with that said, my gut reaction is that they are probably sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. Still trying to battle this cold.
It's
Um,
understandable.
my gut reaction is that they are somehow connected to the natural lines. And by
Okay.
natural, I mean they have no influence from human engineering.
Uh-uh. I see.
And that brings me to the next thing: is that group or groups of dogmen who have been reported, who have been seen, who have been described in ways that make us think that they are a totally different thing altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that I lend a little bit of to the school of thought that they are probably human engineered.
Yes. And you know, on that point, I find it really interesting that all of those seem to be coming from almost always like reported in the national forest, right?
Mm.
And every single national forest has some kind of military presence most of the time. Well, I'm not gonna say every, but like a lot, you know. And if they don't have something that's like right there that you can see, there's stories about it being underground, right? And that, and follow me here. I want to get your take on this. Are you familiar with the treaty that President Eisenhower supposedly signed with the Greys?
Oh yeah.
So, if he did that with them and allowed all that to happen in the national parks, you think there's some correlation there?
I would not rule it out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would not rule it out. So here's one of the things that I find too when you talk about the thing about caverns and underground access and the national parks and the military and so forth like that. It is inevitable every single time that I've researched areas that have high numbers of reported sightings or unreported sightings. And let me stress this, for every reported sighting, I believe there's at least 10 sightings that go unreported.
I think there's more than that.
Well, I'm giving it a loose estimate simply because you don't want to overwhelm people that much, okay, to be honest with you. So we're going to say like for every one, there's at least 10 others that did not get reported.
Okay.
For various reasons.
Right.
Okay, so with that said, you look at statistically where a lot of the national parks, especially here in the South, and throughout all of Appalachia, the Appalachian areas actually, going up into as far as Maine, where they reach at. When you talk about and you look at the geological maps, the geological maps.
Geological?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
That displayed the cave systems and so forth. Mm-hmm. You find there's a very strong correlation between that and the hot spots of where these reportings happen at. Okay.
Right.
Case in point, the area in the Tennessee where I live, Murfreesboro, a lot of people do not really associate this area with sightings of cryptids. It's not one of those places that people go, oh, that's a hot spot. You just discovered that one?
I did. I was like, oh, what's that do? Keep going.
It makes you bigger. They really don't. When people talk about Murfreesboro, they really don't talk about Bigfoot and Dogman and the presence of cryptids in a place that they consider part of Metro Nashville.
Right.
What they don't understand is 30 minutes from my house is an area called Cedars of Lebanon.
Yep.
Is a state park area.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that have been researching and living in this area for a very long time that have told me recently that the Cedars is a hotbed, that there are people that don't even want to go there anymore because of all of the activity that's happened in that area. Now, the interesting thing about all of that, I did not know this until I started reading about the geography of Murfreesboro the other day, because I asked myself a very important question. I was like, what minerals are available in this area? What are the minerals that are right under my feet on a daily basis?
Mm.
You know, in the area where I live at, there was some surprising things. Rock hounds, all the way up into going as far as the Highland Ridge area and so forth, have found calcite, celestite, a lot of things that I really didn't think of as being here. But the other thing that I found very interesting was the cave system
Mm-hmm.
underneath my feet.
Okay.
So why did that actually surprise me in correlation to the other things that I found recently? It really didn't.
Mm.
When I read that, the first thought that goes to my head was, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. You know, if there's a correlation between caverns and cryptids,
Right.
I can see that happening. I can see that being a thing. So again, you know, you look at that, you ask yourself, well, you know, how logical is it to expect to see a cryptid, you know, walking near Nashville metro areas? You know, you're talking about quote unquote civilized areas, not out in the boondocks.
Right.
And
Right.
where a lot of people, you know, people perceive seeing cryptids in places like, you know, East Tennessee, where there's more sparse areas, where, you know, there's more rural areas,
Mm-hmm.
smaller towns and so forth. What they don't know and what they don't understand is there are documented reports of sightings of cryptids on the outskirts of Lebanon,
Mm-hmm.
walking through Maryville, Tennessee. Okay, not on the outskirts, but actually walking in the city limits of Maryville.
Right.
There have been reports of cryptids before.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know where Maryville is, it's a college town that has a much bigger grocery store than most college towns have.
Mm-hmm.
Not that far away from Knoxville proper. So you're kind of centered in an area, you know, where, and when I say college town, I'm not talking about like something the size of you know, Champaign-Urbana. I'm talking about a very spread out college town. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In our mind, we don't want to comprehend that you would see this here, but there's also been cryptid sightings as far as, you know, the Arch there in St. Louis.
Right.
Recently.
Well, I mean, I don't find it surprising at all. Like Nashville itself. Okay, so you would be more acquainted with this, I would think. Would Nashville come across as a weird place to you? Like people?
Definitely.
Right. How many stories do you think have come out and just, I don't know, the last 30 years alone of people selling their soul in the music industry?
Right.
You see where I'm going with this? Nashville is pretty daggum big, and people will do whatever it takes. So I'm gonna tie this back into the occult angle. I mean, the whole military angle is perfectly valid. I mean, there's bases all over the place. There's cave systems, Mount Eagle. I mean, there's plenty there. But if we look at like the downtown reports of things, you know, it doesn't surprise me at all. You know, people go to try to make it big, and they're like, I guess I can't do it. And some shady figure with sunglasses and probably a fedora hat's like, Oh, you really want to make it big? Sign right here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, these stories are reported. Heck, one of my best friends, actually, her little brother was actually experienced this, and he is an awesome drummer. I mean, this kid is amazing. And he was trying to make it big out there in Tennessee, out there in Nashville. And before he signed any contract with a record label, that's what they told him. They said, "We're going to make you big, but you are going to have to sell your soul to the devil to make this work." And he came this close. Granted, his father's a preacher, and I know that he knows better on one hand, and two, you can't sell what's not yours, right? I mean, this whole contract to the devil thing, they might want to deceive you with that, but it's not something that really can be made real, not unless you allow it and you never repent. Like, you can't sell your soul. But they don't know that,
Right.
But
right.
but like that happened to him, and he backed out last minute and moved home instantly, and things have been kosher for him. Good on him. He's a good dude. I love him to death. And there's going to be so many more stories of people that go through with it. And if you think, well, I just did that, so I guess I'm all in, you're going to start going down the left-hand path or whatever. And then, just Satanism alone, we hear stories about people taking the path of either the vampire or the werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I do know is like a thing for the werewolf path is it sigil magic, where you have to like have you have to show kind of what you're doing, like reveal it. There has to be like tellers. Is it sigil, something like that? Anyways, words equal hard. I'm sorry, folks. I'm from Alabama. And the thing that they have to do to like give like an outward sign of it is they have to like break their fingers almost every single day and let them heal back, break, to the point where they have like these really long, gnarly looking fingers. And that is one of like their signs of showing the path that they chose in their journey, right? And like I said, so the cult is everywhere there. And if they do this already, to have reports of something in downtown, 100% possible. And like I said, that's excluding the whole militaristic angle of it anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
So, it's very interesting because my understanding of things are a little bit different from being on at one point on the inside out.
Mm.
So, first of all, when it comes to occultism and so forth like that, my personal opinion is a lot of that is very fabricated, very misinformed information.
People just being super edgelords.
Well, and and here's the thing of it: it's like over time, you've had people who were, like Crowley and other occultists,
right,
who fabricated a lot of stories and a lot of information. Again, the whole thing about selling your soul to the devil. You can't sell what you do not own.
Exactly.
Okay. From a theological perspective, it is impossible to make a contract with the devil. Now, is it possible to give your free will over to a nefarious belief system? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You can thoroughly use your free will to adhere to a nefarious belief system, a nefarious theology.
Right.
100%, we have free will,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to understand the universal law of ownership in order to be able to understand why the idea of selling one's soul to the devil is one of the biggest lies we've
Right.
created. Okay.
Right. And that's what I said. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's impossible. You can't really do it,
Right.
but you can be convinced that you did. Right.
Of course you can. You can be I could go
Yeah.
around convincing
That's the
people
point.
that I'm from, Uranus too. But
I hear that's a rough town.
you know, but the thing of it is you when it comes to occult practices, what I'm going to tell you is a lot of people are very gullible.
Mm.
And do I believe that there are things like being able to conjure and so forth like that, and to be able to manifest, or conjure evil presence and so forth? Absolutely, 100%. I believe that is possible.
Right.
What I do not believe is a lot of the hype surrounding a lot of these things. Okay, like, do I believe that Katy Perry is possessed by some demonic force?
No, she's a reptilian. We all know that.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I believe it's more likely for her to be possessed by something outside of her personal being than for her to be a reptilian. Okay, and here's why I'm going to say that. First of all, that's kind of like saying the reptilians love the idea of Taco Bell so much that they took that concept with them to their planet and built just this entire chain of Taco Bells because it's the greatest thing on the face of the earth. If you were a reptilian, would you really present yourself as Kate? Yeah, no, it's just not going to happen. No, I don't believe that. What I do believe is the more likelihood of them promoting themselves in high places as being worshipped. Okay.
Mm.
And when I say that, I'm talking about people who have a fan base that goes beyond the music industry, that goes beyond all of these other things. Now, do I believe there are probably reptilians in the music industry? I believe there may be a handful of them. As a matter of fact, I would almost say I am sure that there are a handful.
I'd put money on it, yeah.
There are a handful, and you will know them by their signs.
Very true.
But with that, bringing it back home to the Dogman, honestly, I believe that there are, just like there are, North Alabama is inundated, like the entire area of North Alabama is just under your feet is honeycombs of caves.
Oh yes.
There's cave systems throughout all of the East Coast areas that kind of, I'm pretty sure a lot of them kind of connect together in some way or another, even in a marginal sense at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that there are, be it the natural dogmen, I don't believe that they are using the cave system so much, but the engineered dogmen, yes. Mm-hmm. Now, why do I what's one of the things I distinguish between the two? There is one thing that I do know that I will say about my understanding based on the conversations I've had with people who've experienced both types. There's a common denominator with that separates both of those types. Okay. The natural, like, bloodlines through the ages, we've always been here, dogmen.
Yeah.
They're intelligent, but they're not that intelligent. Okay. They're intelligent in a primordial sense. Like their primitive instincts are very like they're high geared. Okay. They are apex predators. They are instinctual, tuned into killing machines. I mean, they're literal. Their existence is all about survival and protecting their property. Okay?
Right.
Protecting their property is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
However, when you get into the engineered dogmen, here's where it starts getting a little off center. They appear to have an intelligence level, and I'm going to say this very cautiously but very seriously, likened to that of people. Okay. Their ability to be able to use the art of war and understand the art of war, their ability to be able to use intelligence in a way that is not animalistic,
right?
Their ability to interact with the environment on the level of a human being. Those are all some of the indicators that I have that there's an intelligence division there.
Yeah.
That somewhere along the line, the engineered dogman is very distinguishable between a dogman who was born and raised in the woods. Okay.
Right. Well, okay. So, okay, on that line of reasoning, then, are you going down the route of perhaps 3D printed meat suit?
I mean, some of them could be.
I mean, because that's where my brain goes with it. Like, because I agree with you in all this. Like, they're so smart and they're so, how would you say, just freaking ruthless, man. Like, to me, it would be the same as like a gray alien. It's just a hollow shell that's been essentially 3D printed or designed that's now being inhabited. You know, that's the way I look at them.
It's very possible. I would not rule that out. In some cases, it's very probable. I don't think that is all of it. I think there are some that scientifically have somehow been able to combine the genes of humans and possibly the natural dogman together to create a hybrid being that for lack of a better term is flesh and blood. I mean, you know, in that sense. Now, what's very interesting is one of the things that I'm wondering too is how many. What's the possibility that these hybrid genetically engineered beings do have somehow been gifted with a chip?
A chip, like as in like AI?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And one of the reasons, look, if we're going to think for a moment, if we're going to push the limits here and really explore what these things are and what they're about, we have to look at all possible explanations for the things that happen around them. Okay,
Right.
the ability to materialize through portals and so forth like that. All of these things. What if they are somehow connected on a very explainable basis, scientifically?
Mhm.
What if they have the ability, because they have some kind of implant, to be
Right.
able to produce these things? Um, their calculations, their
Mm.
ability to seem to perform supernatural, you know, even at the speeds that they're clocked at running and stuff like that.
Right.
What if all of these things somehow revolve back to as a military asset? Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. We can't rule out anything at this point when it comes to the engineered ones. Okay,
Right.
they were created for a purpose. What purpose, we're still speculating on, even though when it comes to the military, they usually only have one purpose in mind. Okay, it's usually domination somewhere along the line.
Yeah, some kind of
Yeah,
asset or weapon, right?
yeah. The military is not really about producing chocolates and fuzzy bunnies. Okay, they're,
Well, to be fair though, hold on. The German military back in World War II did make some good chocolate from what I hear. I
well,
mean, they sprinkle a little bit of that cocaine up in it, but I'm just saying, carry on, carry on.
there you go. But the thing of it is, the the basis of the military is weaponization. I mean, that,
Yeah.
protection, build like, or like I said, domination.
Mm-hmm.
We were warned about the military industrial complex many decades ago.
Oh yeah.
Um, so, if there is a segment of the dogman population that comes from a military experience, the best word I can put there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what? Why would we limit them? Why would we doubt that they would what they would do, what they're capable of doing?
Right.
Yeah. So adding that next element in is not so hard to comprehend when you start thinking on those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of the descriptions that I've heard, a lot of the things that I've heard, make me believe that they are somehow not fully, what's the words I want to use here, that there's some mechanized stuff going on there. Okay, that there's something that connects them to that which is beyond just the natural organic. Okay,
Right.
and again, my first thought is computer chip or computerized, something. They have
Right.
some connection to this. And I think that's one of the reasons why AI is another thing that is a lot of people are questioning. They're speculating. There's a lot of fear and doubt revolving around it. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, the media keeps hyping it up.
Right.
Um, I personally do not think that what we have right now is true AI, uh,
Mm.
per se, like chatbot and stuff like that. I don't really think
Right.
is what we call AI is not true AI.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people use other terms for it, and I'm usually focused on other things and about half listening whenever I hear these things. But I have to agree with them. I don't think that what we have right now is the true definition of AI, in at least in the sense of our everyday usage on computers and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're there yet. I don't think they're willing to unleash AI to the general public like that, because I think it would wind up being very, very dangerous.
Right.
But here's the thing, Jojo.
Hmm?
Because Jojo says the thought of Dogmen and AI is unsettling. It is unsettling, but is it more unsettling to think about a Dogman being connected with AI, or a human being being connected with AI?
I say same.
I think they're kind of right up there with each other, to be honest with you. But Dogmen right now don't have control over some of the toys that men have. Okay. So
Well, you know what though? Hold on. Let's backtrack a little bit back into this AI, because if she finds this unsettling, I want to unsettle her just a little bit more. You know what my favorite game is, right? 2 Degrees from Nephilim. And I can get it in one. All right. So when we think about AI and even electronics, has anybody out there ever heard of the Key of Solomon? Look at some of those sigils and, well, I don't know what else you would call them, but symbols, sigils, whatever. Look at those and tell me that they don't look very strikingly like modern day electronic diagrams. And that doesn't even go into account for the fact that true AI, in order to have the power and potential, you would have to be operating within the quantum, which is what? A different dimension. So, a true AI, there's 2 routes right there for demonic, Nephilim, whatever. And yeah, so it's the same. It's the same, in my opinion.
I could see that. Again, I don't rule anything out. I really don't. There's certain things that, and I think first of all, in order to be able to do honest research and investigation, you have to keep an incredible open mind about it. You have to stay neutral on opinions and on your personal stuff. Like, I've got personal beliefs, I really do. I have a personal moral standard and a personal ethnic code. I do not allow that to taint what I think on any of the subjects that I do research and investigation on, simply because it would turn into biased opinions before it's over with. And I don't think we're at the stage in history where we can really define that there's an absolute truth one way or the other. Because let's talk for a moment about the theological aspect.
Sure.
So if you believe that Satan is real, if you believe all of the things that are biblical about Satan, then you're going to understand that Satan is going to want you to believe any untruth about him that you choose to believe. Up to and including, that Satan is probably hiding out in NASCAR having a blast right now.
NASCAR?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, yeah, I'm down for it.
Why not?
I just picture Ricky Bobby.
Satan,
I'm on fire! Help me, Tom Cruise!
Satan is a NASCAR driver, and he's idolized by all the NASCAR fans now.
Probably.
So, this is what I'm saying. It's like, the great deceiver, the very pinpoint of the great deception itself
Right.
is going to want you to believe everything other than the truth. That's why throughout history, one of the biggest misconceptions about Satan is the horn, pitchfork, and tail.
Mm.
You know, we have deviled Satan into a joke for years now. You know, Saturday Night Live, you know, back during the church chat lady era, had some dude dressed in a devil outfit, you know, like posing as Satan. You know, Satan loves to make himself out to be a joke to people. Satan loves to make himself out to be a fairy tale. Anything that is unbelievable, you know, or not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the truth. We don't want to understand the concept that, you know, the reality of the situation is if you look at scripture, even the elite are going to be deceived to a degree.
But we're told that constantly his favorite way to appear as a beautiful angel of light. In fact, he was the most beautiful angel that was created.
With the sum total of all knowledge.
Exactly.
So, and I could get into a lot of different routes with this, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
With that said, you know, we have to understand that theologically, it's very dangerous for us to put too much stock in anything and say it's absolutely true, because another indicator of deception sometimes is what the majority begins to preach. You need to really consider it before you buy into it. And here's why. Because if you're going to deceive people, you're going to want more and more and more people to fall into the trap of preaching that deception. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, am I saying that the idea that you know, cryptids are the offspring of the Nephilim is a deception? I am not going to say that. I will say that I'm a little leery of putting all of my eggs in that basket, because I don't want to rule out the possibility that maybe that's not the case. Mm. Yeah, because we don't know. We have what seems to be proof, okay?
Yeah.
But we're still trying to debate. I mean, we got denominations trying to debate when baptism is important and if it's important at all. So we can't even agree on on basic things.
Right.
You know, the Eucharist, you know, the sacrament.
Right.
We can't agree on our own dogmas. How are we going to agree on the Dogman? So you know what I'm saying?
I like what you did there.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying, you know, believe as you will. You thoroughly believe as you will, but understand that if you put all your eggs in one basket, you need to be absolutely 100% sure that where you're at does not have even an ounce of doubt to it. Mm. Because if you're going to agree 100% with something, that means you need to have 100% backing that what you're saying is absolute, no holds barred, could not ever be any differently. Mm. Okay. And literally be willing to bet your life on that.
Right.
Because if you buy one deception, you're going to buy another deception sooner or later. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
This is why I'm saying it is perfectly fine to keep a very open mind and not settle for a complete answer on anything ever, unless you're presented with 100% fact that that is right. Yeah. Do we know that the speculation that a dogman is canine opposed to being feline? There's a good strong possibility that the dogman is definitely a canine type creature based on the characteristics, the physical characteristics, the mentalities, all of those things. Based on all that, we're going to say that the dogman is a canine, not a feline. Okay.
What about Catman?
That's a different creature. Okay.
What about Hyena Man?
Is that not kind of?
I'm kidding. Let's go. Let's go.
But you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Is like there are some things that you can pretty much assume are accurate.
Mm.
You know.
Right.
You know, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it smells like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Or a goose, but yes.
Or a goose, either way. But the thing of it is, you've got to be careful about when it comes to the absolutes of the things that we do not know, for sure.
Right. And that's why, every story that we hear, there's no experts in any of this. Like, we can only speculate and go by what we've experienced ourselves. If anybody's like, I have the answer, well, you might want to be a little leery, because what are you coming into agreement with, right? I mean, that's right. The gist of what we're saying here. Like, there's no experts, and you need to do your own research. Like, I link all this back to the Nephilim because I have my own evidence, and I've been shown proof through my own experiences, and that's enough for me. I can look at the cases where all flesh was corrupted and everything was essentially hybridized during the fall and be like, yeah. And then see all the stuff after it happened after the flood and be like, yeah. That's enough for me. But it's not going to be for everybody necessarily. I mean, not everybody wants to go down that path, and I get it, and you can be like, well, what about the government ones? Like, and I think we've put out a really good case for how it can be something that's separate yet the same, right?
Right.
I feel like we did a pretty good job on that.
Right.
I mean, if being realistic, the only thing we haven't really covered is the whole skinwalker bit, but
right. Well, and and I will tell you this, my personal thought is that when it comes to any aspect, military, government, religion, all of it, I think we have to understand that when it comes to the paranormal and to the occult and other things, that there are weeds in the field everywhere all the time.
Oh yeah.
Never ever doubt that. Just as there are good and bad people in the world, people who have bad intentions or people who have nothing but good intentions, there are equally the same balance of good and bad within the institutions. So I have no doubt, like there are definitely, when it comes to the human engineered beings, I have no doubt that there are probably outside forces connected to that are not necessarily human. Okay.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about that. Do not get me crossed with believing differently. But I also think that there are some people, for the sake of knowing humans the way I know them, I think there are some people who are so obsessed with science itself that they may be absolutely neutral when it comes to their personal ethics.
Yeah.
But for the sheer sake of science, they're going to do the thing. because it's
Yup.
a scientific experiment.
Somebody got to push that button.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. Do I think that everybody that's involved with CERN is a Satanist? Absolutely not. I think there are some people that are so scientifically obsessed that just for the sake of science, they're going to do it. They will put their finger in the light socket just to prove that electricity is shocking every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like there's always going to be a Benjamin Franklin in the group. Okay. There's always going to be that person who's going to just want to test the waters for the sake of science. And I think we have to understand that too. But yeah, I mean, honestly, to wrap it up a little bit, because I don't know about you, but we're like,
Oh yeah, we've been going a while.
We have. And I'm also looking at this stuff. I don't know what's going on. It looks like the storm system is playing out some, but it's also going to be very close to my area by 10:30ish. So I want to know exactly what's going on here. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of bring it home a little bit, I think there are different groups of dogmen, different types, if you will, that have different origins, but are all ultimately of the same house, if that makes sense. They all connect somehow. Okay, it's just like a family tree.
Yeah.
Just like a family tree. So you got the hillbilly cousins that embarrass the city dwellers. You got the city dwellers that embarrass the hillbilly cousins because they're all that in a bag of chips and too good for people. You got the ones in between that are just kind of we're everyday people trying to make our way in a world we don't quite understand,
right?
And everything in between. So, and I realize I put a human spin on the Dogman by saying that, but the fact of the matter is I'm trying to give you guys a first grade outlook on it for those that are not really over the top familiar with this conversation.
Right.
I believe that they do not all serve the same purpose. I mean, some of them, because of the origin of their existence over time, I believe they serve different purposes. Do I believe that there are some that are probably more friendly? I don't know. I would go that far.
I ain't getting close enough to ask.
I don't think I'm going to try to adopt one at a humane society anytime soon. Okay, because the origin is an apex predator, one way or the other. Okay, that's like wanting to go live with the animals in the wild. We have too many indications that trusting wild animals is a good thing. It is not. We realize that because a lot of stories have come up over the years of people who thought that they could do that, and it ended very badly for them.
Yeah, I swear only white people can look at a tiger and be like, I can be friends with that.
Right.
Okay, stop.
So here's
I digress.
Here's what I'm going to tell you guys on this. I do not think that we should ever get to the point where we put the Dogman in a category of possibly being morally good in that sense. I think if you're a wild animal and you were born in the wild, you are going to have those instincts irregardless. Domestication is not always for every species of animal. If you are an engineered creature, you are definitely not going to be retrained, reprogrammed. It's not going to happen.
Nope.
So yeah, the bottom line is if it's a wild anything, if it looks like it's not like your neighbor's dog or your puppy, don't try to make friends with it in the woods. Okay, just don't. Just
Yeah.
it's not going to work out right for you.
That's safe.
Trust me.
And you know what? I love the way that you put that. They're not. They're all within the same tree, but they're not all necessarily on the same page. The
Right.
only thing I would add to that is at the end of that statement, say, yet.
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 Yeah, exactly. Because we don't know. I mean, over time, they may very well be. We don't know what the outcome is yet. We're
Right.
not there yet.
And I would say that if you guys want to find out, I mean, just from my perspective, Book of Revelations will cover that for you. And that's why I say yet, because of what will happen. So, well, man, I think we nailed that like a split hog. What do you think?
I think so. I try as best I can to make things a lot more understandable for people from years of life experience and years of research. I've been in this since I was 9 years old. Okay, so I have a lot of years of thinking about these things and a lot of years of learning about these things behind me now.
Nice.
So I am not an authority, but I do have a perspective on things that I think is unique and worth consideration. So I hope something I said tonight may be new and refreshing and give you some insight to deepen your understanding and think about in your research, in your path.
As long as we were able to give everybody the want to go out and make their own magical journey, do some
Right.
research, then we did a good thing, man.
Right,
You know?
right.
So with that being said, man, let's close us out and tell everybody where to find you at.
Okay, so I've made it really simple lately. First of all, obviously you can find me at Magickal Journey Podcast on YouTube. I would strongly encourage you, because there's some rapidly changing developments with how I'm going to be doing some things coming up here. I would strongly encourage you to connect with magicaljourney.com or Magickal Journey Facebook group, either way, to keep up with the latest going on with my stuff, because I'm making some changes, not only to make my life a little less complicated, but to hopefully give you guys better service than I would have been able to do otherwise. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, man, hang out for a second and I'm going to say the goodbyes. You know the drill. You're professional.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to come on tonight.
Bro, thank you for saving my butt on the cancellation tonight. I really appreciate it.
I do too. I appreciate being on here. It's a good time.
And Lord knows, like, folks, I mean, I know that you guys don't know, but like me and Magic and Tom and Pam and Paul, we all have like our own little group. And like when Magic and I get on the phone just to talk to each other, we'll go for hours. We will go for hours. So, Lord knows we love to talk, and we just love to just vomit it all out because it's fun. It's fun. I often think about, man, we need to record our phone conversations because they're so good. But anyways.
I can see that.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, hang out. I'll be right there, okay?
All right.
All right. Well, guys, that's the show for tonight. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me at the Night's Watch. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned a few things, scratched your head and said, I want to look into that a little further. Also, make sure you're subscribed, share it out, do the comments thing. Also, and do the same thing for Magic. Magic is a cool dude. He's great people. You will enjoy him as well. So go over there to his show and show him some love. So, with all that being said, I think the moral of the story is, if you hear a dog man playing the banjo, I don't know. Do something. Don't stay there. What are you doing? Why would you stay there? That's retarded. Or wait, crap. Say it. That's mentally handicapped. Don't do that. So yeah, with that being said, then love y'all. Tookie. Peace.
How it's supposed to feel.